Pencils down. I learned that from Kathy Choate recently in a meeting. Because my pencil was still flying, and she had a good point. It allowed me to focus on the next speaker. And you will want to focus on this next speaker. Let me ask you a question. Can you remember a time when you were given some life-changing, positive wisdom? Wisdom that contributed to your own personal success? That's going to be the thrust of today's speaker's presentation. He has been a Toastmaster for over 40 years. He is currently serving as our Vice President of Membership. He's speaking from the Entertaining Manual. It's an advanced manual, and that requires him to share a personal experience and make it entertaining. With his speech entitled, "It Happened in Chowchilla." Chowchilla. What a name. It happened in Chowchilla. Please join me in welcoming a distinguished Toastmaster, accredited speaker, Wayne Choate.
Oh, thank you, Dan, and you're absolutely right. All I want to do here today is to share with you an experience that I had where I gained some wisdom. And the reason I want to share with you today is because I hope, through my spoken word here today, that you would gain and benefit from the wisdom that I received, because it had a positive effect on my career. It might just happen for you as well. So stay with me just for a few minutes as I unfold for you my experience, my story. Now, in order to do that, I have to take you back just a few years, back to when I was booked to speak in Chowchilla, California. I will never forget this speaking engagement. Now, for the benefit of those of you who may not know, Chowchilla is a small little town about 50 miles north of Fresno. And I'll never forget this speaking engagement. I remember I arrived early up there so that I could meet with the program chairman. Never met the man before, didn't know what he looked like. But when I walked into the room where he and I had agreed to meet, this man stood up. And when he stood up, I couldn't help but to notice that he was dressed in Western attire. Oh, he had those expensive cowboy boots on. He had a big belt buckle, had a string tie, had a gun and holster. Yes, he did. A gun and holster on both hips. They look real to me. Gun and holster on each hip. He had an expensive Stetson hat. And this long, tall cowboy came lumbering over to me and he said, "Are you the speaker here this evening?" I said, "You bet I am." He said, "You don't look like a speaker." I said, "Well, I've been sick." Well, Pat, he was packing 2 guns. What would you have said to him? That's all I can think of saying. He said, "Well, I'm glad you're here early. I just want to let you know how our meeting is going to be conducted here this evening." He said, "First of all, I should let you know it's going to be about 400 of our members and guests in attendance here, and they're all going to be dressed in Western attire because that's our theme for this evening's meeting." And he said, "You know, I'm sorry I didn't get that message to you, but you look good in your 3-piece suit." He said, "I look good in my 3-piece suit." He said, "Now, this is the way the meeting is going to be conducted. We're going to start things off with a cocktail hour over here. The traditional cocktail hour is going to be over here. And after this cocktail hour, we're going to move all the way over here to the banquet hall for our banquet meal. And then after the banquet meal, we're going to do 3 things. Just 3 things. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to have the awards presentations. That is to say, we're going to recognize all of our members who've helped our organization grow and to build and to expand. And then after the awards, then we're going to have just a little bit of entertainment. And then after the entertainment, we'll cap the evening off with the featured speaker of the evening. He said, "Now, you are our speaker, right?" I said, "I'm your speaker now." The thing that made that speaking engagement so unforgettable for me, the reason I'll never forget it, it wasn't because of that program chairman. It wasn't because of the Western attire. Really, it wasn't even because of the little town of Chowchilla. The thing that made that speaking engagement so unforgettable for me was because of this cocktail hour over here. Well, you see, this cocktail hour lasted well over an hour. Over 3 hours. Almost 3 hours anyway. But Finally, someone realized that we better get over here to the banquet hall and get our banquet meal started. So someone flicked the lights. They flicked the lights, Michael, just to get everyone's attention. And when they did, they motioned for everyone to come on over into the banquet hall. And of course, everyone came walking in very orderly. And they got into the banquet hall. Listen to this. They got into the banquet hall and they found their seats. I was surprised about that too, but they found their seats. And when they did, the master of ceremonies, or Dan, if you pardon the expression, the toastmaster of the event, stepped to the microphone and he said 2 words, and I realized he was loaded. He was loaded. But what he said, I'll never forget. He looked out at that audience with those glassy eyes and that slurred speech, and he said, "Go ahead and enjoy your banquet meal, but be sure and enjoy the free champagne that is on the table." I thought, oh no, not more booze for this audience, not more alcohol. I said to myself, alcohol? That's the most of which they needed the least. Dr. Dave, I'm telling the truth, we could have operated on anyone in that room and never used anesthetics. They were soused. Carolyn, are you with me on this? Are you picking up what I'm putting down? They were soused. Well, that must have been their cue. Because when he told them to go ahead and enjoy that free champagne, they started popping those champagne bottles. Champagne corks started flying through the air. He must have gained some sort of inspiration from that. You know, seeing the champagne corks fly through the air? Because it wasn't long after that they started taking bread rolls and throwing them across the room at each other. They started taking their knives with little patties of butter and flipping them across the room. Hey, look, a fight broke out in the back of the room. I'm telling you the gospel truth. 2 grown men in $200 Stetson hats belting each other out in the back of the room. Well, they broke up the fight and we finished our banquet meal. I don't know how they finished the banquet meal, but they did. And now it's time for the awards presentations. And can I put a little parenthesis in here? This was the longest, the lengthiest awards presentation I've ever sat through. I believe they gave an award to everyone in the room. I think all 400 received either a certificate or a plaque or a trophy. Everyone in the room received something except for me and the salad chef. Everybody received something. But finally they finished the awards presentation. And now it's time for the entertainment. Now listen to this. The entertainment this evening consisted of 4 of their own members. 4 of their own members had put together a barbershop quartet. And they had been rehearsing for weeks. And they came on and they did 1/2 chorus of "Wait Till the Sun Shines Nelly," and they booed them off the stage. And who do you think is next? Yeah. You want to be next, Herb?
No.
I didn't either. I didn't want to be next either. So I leaned over to the program chairman. I said, look out there. I said, the floor's a mess, the bread, the butter. I said, they're fighting in the back of the room, for goodness sakes. I said, this is not an audience. I said, this is an old Western movie. That's what it is. It's an old Western movie, and that's a posse out there. And I'm afraid that posse is going to hang someone before this night's over. And it might be the only one that's in a 3-piece suit. I said, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll get up, I'll do a couple of minutes. They won't even know I was here. He said, I paid you for 40 minutes. You're going to do 40 minutes. Do you want to be next? He said, you're going to do 40 minutes. It's almost as if he sobered up right before my eyes. Do I have to remind you he's wearing 2 guns? He said, you're going to do 40 minutes. Well, the thought occurred to me that I got to get out of this. There's no way I'm going to be able to speak to this audience. So I thought, well, surely I could outrun this program chairman. He had those high heel boots on. He had the heavy 6 guns. I'm pretty sure I could outrun him. But that was just a fleeting thought. And then I remembered the truth. And the truth is, I had signed a contract with that group up in Chowchilla. And that contract said that I would be there, that I'd be on time, and that I would be good. And you know, that contract didn't say anything about them. the audience. It didn't say they had to be on time. Didn't say they had to be good. Didn't say they had to be sober. Didn't even say they had to be there. So I went on. Now keep in mind, I didn't want to, but I went on. I think I know the lesson. I think I know the wisdom that I gained. The lesson that I learned is life, and Julie, you can forget everything I've said up to this point if you'll just remember this. Life is not lived at the level of I'll think about it or I'll do it when I feel more like it. Mm-hmm. Life is about doing it now, and doing it whether we feel like it or not. Carolyn, am I saying feelings are not important? Of course not. I'm just saying feelings will get in the way. If you're not careful, feelings will get in the way and they will keep you from doing. How many times, listen to me, will you? How many times have we said, I would give anything to be able to play the piano, or to paint, or to sculpt, or to run a marathon, or to prepare that speech for sandpipers, or to go for my DTM, my Distinguished Toastmaster. How many times have we said that? And in answer to the question of why don't you, we keep hearing that same answer, don't we? That same answer keeps coming back. Well, I've been thinking about it. Or I'm going to do it after the holidays when I feel more like it. And why does that answer keep coming back when we've all heard the expression, haven't you? Haven't you heard the expression that the emotion to do always follows the doing? In fact, there's a delightful story told about Thomas Edison, where an elderly lady walked up to him one time and she said, "Oh, Mr. Edison, it's so wonderful. You get inspired and then you invent these wonderful things." Edison said, "That's not the way it works, lady. I invent these things and then I get inspired." Well, now I'm inspired. Inspired because I've had the opportunity to impart to you an experience that I had where I picked up some wisdom that's had a positive, a dramatic effect on my career. And it was my hope that by sharing that wisdom with you, that it would affect you that same way. My speaking engagement there in Chowchilla, I did do 40 minutes. And remarkable as it may sound, after that 40 minutes, it's almost as if they all sobered up and they gave me a standing ovation, which I appreciated. But what I really appreciated was the fact that that audience, I was able to book an additional 5 speaking engagements as a result of that, because I believe, and I believe strongly, that that audience knew the difficulty that I was going to have to go through in order to do 40 minutes on that stage. They knew that I didn't want to do it, but I did it anyway. I hope you will all benefit from that lesson, that wisdom that I picked up in Chowchilla, because it really all happened in Chowchilla. Mr. Toastman.